All right, let's talk about this properly. Because what you're seeing online right now is very mixed, and honestly, a lot of people are getting the wrong idea. You've probably seen the headlines. Iran targeting California. FBI warning about West Coast threat. US on high alert. And when you see something like that, the first reaction is obvious. Wait, is something actually about to happen? Is this serious? So let's break it down calmly, step by step, because the reality is a bit different from how it's being presented. What actually triggered all of this was an internal alert, not a public announcement, not a press conference, just something that was shared inside law enforcement channels. Basically, a warning that said there could be a possible threat connected to Iran, potentially involving drone activity near the West Coast, specifically California. Now notice the wording, could be, possible. That matters, because that's very different from saying something is confirmed. But here's where everything changed. That internal alert didn't stay internal. It got out. And the moment it reached the public, the tone shifted immediately. Because once it hits media and social platforms, people don't repeat it exactly how it was written. They simplify it. And usually, they make it stronger. So possible threat quickly becomes active threat. And warning becomes targeting. And suddenly, the story everyone is hearing is, Iran is targeting California. Now, at the same time, officials started responding. And this is the part most people are missing. The White House came out and said the alert was based on a single unverified tip, meaning this wasn't confirmed intelligence. It wasn't something they tracked across multiple sources. It was just one piece of information that hadn't been fully validated yet. California officials also said there was no imminent threat. So right away, you have a gap between what's being said publicly and what's actually confirmed. And this is where things get interesting, because both sides are technically telling the truth. Law enforcement did receive a warning, but that doesn't automatically mean there's a real attack coming. This is how security works. They don't wait for 100% confirmation. If there's even a small chance something could happen, they flag it. Because if they ignore it, and it turns out to be real, the consequences are massive. So they act early, sometimes very early. But when that early stage warning becomes public, it creates confusion. Because people assume, if police are being warned, something serious must be happening, which is not always the case. Sometimes it just means we're being cautious. Now let's talk about the big question everyone is asking. Could Iran actually do something like this? Like realistically, not theoretically. Technically, yes. It's not impossible. Iran has developed drone capabilities over the years. They've used them in different regions, and they're known for using indirect strategies instead of direct confrontation. So the idea of launching drones from somewhere offshore, it exists. That's not fantasy. But here's where reality kicks in. Doing something like that against the United States mainland is extremely difficult. You're talking about one of the most heavily monitored regions in the world. There's coastal surveillance, radar systems, satellite tracking, naval presence. It's not an easy environment to operate in quietly. So even if you imagine the scenario, a drone launched from a vessel offshore, it still has to travel, avoid detection, reach a target, and actually succeed. Each of those steps is risky, and when you combine them, the chances drop significantly. Then there's the bigger factor, intent. Because just because something is possible doesn't mean it's likely. If you look at how Iran has acted historically, they don't usually go for direct attacks on US soil. They operate differently, more indirect, more controlled, more calculated, because they understand what happens if they cross that line. A direct strike on the United States mainland is not just another move. It's a major escalation, the kind that changes everything overnight. And that's not something you do casually. So for something like this to actually happen, there would need to be clear signs, preparation, movement, signals. And so far, none of that has been confirmed. So now we're left in this situation where there's a warning, but no confirmation. There's concern, but no immediate danger. There's possibility, but no evidence of action. And this is exactly where confusion grows. Because people don't like uncertainty. They want clear answers. Either, yes, something is happening, or no, nothing is happening. But real-world situations, especially involving security and intelligence, rarely work like that. They exist in the middle, and that middle space is uncomfortable because it leaves room for interpretation. And when people start interpreting things on their own, that's when narratives start forming. You'll see people saying, "This is the beginning of something bigger," or they're not telling us everything, or this is just media exaggeration. And honestly, all of those reactions come from the same place: uncertainty. But here's what actually matters. What we know right now: there is no confirmed attack. There is no verified plan targeting California. There is no evidence of something about to happen immediately. What we do have is a warning that was based on unverified information, and a situation where tensions are already high, so even small signals feel bigger than they are. And this brings us to something deeper, because this isn't just about Iran, or California, or even this specific alert. This is about how information works today. In the past, something like this might never reach the public. It would stay inside agencies. It would be evaluated quietly, and most people would never even know it existed. But now, everything moves fast, very fast. A single alert can become a global story in hours. It can spread across platforms, get reshaped, reworded, amplified, until what people believe is no longer exactly what was originally said. And once that happens, the story takes on its own momentum. That's why you're seeing so many strong headlines right now, because strong headlines get attention, and attention drives everything. But if you step back for a second and just look at the actual facts, the situation is much more controlled than it seems. There's awareness, there's monitoring, there's caution, but there is no confirmed crisis. And that distinction is important, because reacting to a confirmed threat is one thing. Reacting to a possibility is something very different. So right now, the smartest way to look at this is simple: stay informed, but don't jump to conclusions. Because in situations like this, the biggest risk is not always what's happening. It's how quickly people assume what's happening. And once that assumption spreads, it becomes very hard to reverse. So yes, this is a situation worth paying attention to. But it's not something that should cause panic. Not based on what we actually know right now. Because at the end of the day, the story isn't about an attack. It's about a warning. And those are two very different things.